Here in Israel, the Persians gave control of the coastal cities like Ashkelon to the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians are traders and merchants, and they have a lot of contacts across the Mediterranean. So for that reason, when Ashkelon is a Phoenician-controlled city, they have a lot of contacts with the rest of the Mediterranean, which we see in the form of Greek pottery, which comes in great numbers during this time. The Phoenicians also build up Ashkelon according to their own city plan. And what that means is that they have large blocks of streets on a north-south, east-west plan, like a grid, like New York City. And so what you see behind me is a building called an insula that takes up an entire city block. And on the other side of this street, which I've just shown you, is another insula that spans at least 200 square meters off in the other direction. So you can see that a lot of the walls are preserved. They're a mix of mud, brick, and stone, but it's a very sizable building. One of the signs that we have here in Ashkelon of Persian control of the city is that we have, for example, from this street, an ivory dagger hilt in the shape of a lion, a very beautiful piece that doesn't come from Phoenician styles, but actually ties into styles over in the area of Iraq where the Persians are based. This neighborhood would have not only been a place where people lived in the interior rooms and spaces of the insula, but there also probably were either shops or workshops that lined the rooms immediately to the street. In this particular building, too, remember we discussed Phoenician influence and the connections to Greece. Inside of this building, we had a couple of really nice objects that show connections both to the west and to the east. In particular, there was a little scarab, a tiny scarab. And normally we think of scarabs as being Egyptian items. And the beetle shape is. But on the other side of the scarab, what we had was a carved Greek hoplite, a Greek soldier. So what you can see is that the Phoenicians, being traders all around the Mediterranean, are gathering influence and objects from all over, and you can see them sort of fusing here at Ashkelon. So when we look at this street, you may think that by our standards this is a pretty small street, and you'd be right. This is not the kind of street that you could probably drive a cart on or have any kind of carriage. It's kind of narrow and it's kind of sandy, so the wheels would get stuck. But you can imagine that they would do what a lot of people do in streets, which is they would throw their garbage in it, and they would still be able to walk along these sidewalks that have been constructed here. They're just wide enough for one person to walk up and down. And so as you stepped out of your doorway, if you were living in this building, you'd step onto the sidewalk and travel north and south up and down your street.